Hi, my name is Brian Boggs from the Leading Minds Academy, and welcome to our very exciting online series. Our next guest is Darryl Lovegrove. Darryl went from being a high school teacher to building up an international event business. He hopped on planes, went all over the world, and he sold his story. Really got out of his comfort zone big time. I'd like you to welcome Mr. Darryl Lovegrove. Darryl, what I love about you is that you epitomise the entrepreneur spirit. Your story is really compelling. Now, as I understand it, you started out as a school teacher and you're sitting around with a buddy drinking a bottle of wine and you came up with a good idea, but not only you came up with a good idea, you took action on it. And that's what I love about the entrepreneur spirit. Can you tell me a little bit about that night that you came up with an idea?
I have to give credit to my former business partner who actually had the embryo of the idea. Luckily enough, he walked in one day and he needed two guys to help him out. And he asked me literally the question, Darryl, do you know any opera? And I had just learnt an opera aria only 2 weeks before that I needed to prepare for an audition I was doing in Auckland for the Auckland Theatre Company. And I didn't get the role, and I was actually kind of feeling a bit sorry for myself that I'd spent all this time learning this damn aria, of which I had no use for. And but 2 weeks later, he walks in and he says, do you know any opera? And I said, well, actually, I do. Recondita Armonia was the one from Tosca, and I sang it for him, and he went, look, that's great. I could use you because I need two guys. We're going to walk around this room, dressed up as waiters, with a bottle in our hands, and we're going to break into song. And I thought it was an interesting idea. We did that show. It was what we thought was a one-off. It was very successful. And but a whole year passed, and then we never really talked about it much again after that, but it was always in the back of my mind, what a neat night that was. That night where we walked around as waiters and frightening people, basically. Yeah. And nearly a year later, I was sitting down with this other event planner, and I remembered that night. And after a few wines, I said to this guy called Tony Bonnie from Podium Events, I said, Tony, you put this entertainment thing together for corporate events. Mate, about a year ago, I did this show where we walked around dressed up as waiters and served drinks and sort of broke into song. He said, that sounds great. Put something down on a piece of paper because I might have a gig for you in a few weeks' time. So I flew back to Sydney, grabbed Mark, and we wrote something on a piece of paper, submitted it, got our second gig. And that was really the beginning of what I thought we had a future, because that was a tremendous gig as well. And flying back, I said to Mark, you know what? We should actually, I know he was a full-time photographer, very busy, successful photographer for the Sunday Telegraph. And I was a successful actor / relieving school teacher at the time. And I said, look, I've got a few contacts. I'm going to start making a few inquiries, and you never know, we might be able to do something with this. And of course, being a photographer, the Sunday Telegraph, he knew a lot of event planners. And so he said, I'll do the same. And we started both using our contacts that we had, and the odd gig all of a sudden would pop up. We get a few more here and there, and this thing just escalated. Wow. Before we knew it, we had a very big show in our hands. But still, Mark was very much ensconced as a photographer. I had more freedom during the day to choose what I wanted to do. I wasn't beholden to anybody. And I probably, Mark having the idea, I probably drove the side of action, of actually turning this into a viable commercial product, where we got a little bit more serious about it. And of course, Mark was a very willing participant in the process, and we actually together really was able to get this thing up and running. And
okay, so you took what was the genesis of an idea, and now you're developing it actually into a business. That's right. And that, of course, involves building a business infrastructure around you. There's only so long you can make the phone calls, take the phone calls, do the banking, pay the bills, the contracts, because that gets in the way, as you would appreciate, of the core business that you should be about, which is about meeting people, building relationships, and getting them to see this product and realise the value that they will have at their event. And that's what Mark and I did best, was meeting people and establishing relationships
and standing back and letting them see it, of course, they're always won over by it.
Okay, so that's interesting. So where it sort of touches into our world a little bit, you were selling value of the outcome. The outcome that the people would get would be they'd be perfectly entertained. So your challenge was to sell that outcome. And
of course, to do that, the major part of that work was establish major quality control. We kept a very eagle eye on every one of the performers that we employed, making sure they were following the script. Some of them would have original ideas to bring in, and we would go with them. We were very open of that. If someone came up with some ripper lines to put in the dialogue, then we were certainly open to that. We weren't anal about that at all. And quality control, absolutely making sure that the overall experience for the client was a thoroughly easy, efficient and pleasant one. That's what we really concentrated on. Just that the quality had to be good. They had to be really good opera singers. They had to be good actors. And there's plenty of opera singers who can't act and actors who can't sing opera. So there's a lot of people who liked to have been in the show but weren't quite right. We had to get that part right if the show was going to work consistently. So sometimes we'd have 3 or 4 in the early days, sometimes 2 or 3 teams out in one night when we were starting in Australia. And that after a year or two, sometimes we'd have even 4. By the time we'd opened up in the UK and the United States, I remember the UK one night, we had I think 40 performers, and we had one night 7 teams out in one night. There'd be one in Barcelona, one in Brussels, one in Paris, 3 in London and 2 in Manchester, kind of thing. And it was wild, you know. But we're really proud of the fact that we built up the infrastructure bit by bit, getting everyone to understand how it works, and making sure that they adhered to those pillars that we created. Because we knew that they worked, and that's keeping the script, that's turning up on time, in suit and tie when they arrive and when they leave. You know, every boy knew that there's going to come difficult situations with certain clients, with some of the sound technicians that they'd have to deal with. They're always to be above all that, be very polite, don't start any arguments, and deliver product, deliver outstanding product. Deliver that outcome. Absolutely.
But wow, so now you've got an international concern.
Yeah.
Not without its challenges, I should imagine. I recall you telling me, was it in Los Angeles at the time? Was it the September 11?
September 11 hit us hugely because, as you can imagine, I mean, you don't even need a September 11, you just need an economic downturn, a bit of a recession, for people to go, you know what, let's not have our annual event at the Hilton Hotel this year for 400 people, let's have office drinks. And the difference is massive, and it really affects the the events industry hugely, not just entertainers, but caterers, suppliers, all suppliers. So when 9/11 hit, not only did you have people saying, oh, we just cannot be seen to be putting on lavish parties and events. That's a bad look when everyone's very scared to walk into a mall at the moment. And of course, no one wanted to fly. When you do that, you can't put on events. And if you can't put on events, then the 3 waiters, it can't be employed. So that was a really tough time, the toughest I remember facing. And we'd only been there for about 6 months, and when I'd had the first 3 months, Mark had the next 3 months, and right at the last weeks of his stint was the 9/11 attack. And I flew into Los Angeles a month to the day on a virtually empty 747 with a wife and a brand new bub. When we arrived, you know, I'd realised from Mark, you know, just the decimation that we'd had, because we were starting to sell a few shows by that stage, and then there was a brick wall. And I had plenty of sleepless nights wondering what on earth we're doing there, because things were going so well in the UK, so well in Australia, and all of a sudden America has just put up a big wall saying, whoa, no, you're not going to sell anything, not in this climate. And I certainly thought of packing up and just concentrating on the UK and Australia, but at the same time I knew there was so much potential in America. If we could just get through the next few months somehow.
Well, it's overcoming that fear, isn't it?
It is a fear, and I had a lot of it. A lot of fear. But I didn't really, I guess with the inexperience of it all, I didn't really almost know how to quit. Because with quitting, you know, it means if we ever come back, it's starting all over again. And so much work had gone into setting it up. And we had our office, we had our performers, we had already clients knowing about our product. We'd already been to exhibited at 2 or 3 major trade shows. So the word out there was of the show, and was starting to get traction when that happened. And look, I guess at the end of the day, you know, I just went right back to the basics. Every day, cold calling. Every day, just selling the product, flying vast distances all over America just to perform for free or speak at an association dinner about the show and hand out all these free promo videos. And
that must have got out of your comfort zone.
It does. It was.
Here we have a school teacher who's now jumping on planes, flying around the world, fronting up to people and having to sell a concept. That must have been totally very challenging to you.
It was. We both knew that we were out of our league a little bit here, and when we went overseas especially. But we learned a lot from building the business up in Australia. And we realised that for two blokes who had never had a business degree or anything like that, we did a lot of things right. And I guess the main thing about that is we're both really good with people, good with establishing, maintaining relationships. We're good at selling the product. And good at, trade shows was an important thing in those days, exhibiting at trade shows, that you get to meet a lot of people, in a stand. You're joining associations. You go to those associations. You're always shaking people's hands. You're giving the cards away. You're getting their cards. You're building up your databases. And when we did that, we knew we had the product behind us, which is a great thing. I mean, having a tremendous product behind you is I think is pretty much half the battle a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, and you had a good brand as well.
Yeah.
So your branding was good, and your product was good, and you had fabulous success. And yet, at the height of the success, the really height of that success, you decided that you wanted a new challenge. Yeah,
I did. I don't know if you know Creel Price, well-known Sydney-based entrepreneur, a guy who was involved in a very big acquisition in about 10 years ago, and he sold his business a few years back, and he speaks about this. I saw him speaking once. He said the problem with the entrepreneur is we get bored with our things, and it was not just boredom. I think that there was a number of factors. One of the ones, it's that jumping out of bed on a Monday morning with that extra skip. I did that for about 8 to 9 years, where I loved Monday mornings. I thought, here we go again. That annoying weekend's over. We can get back to it and get right into it, because there's new clients to be had and new shows to sell and new audiences to be entertained. And that was always my ethos, and I loved that. And I think after a while, around 2007, I wasn't jumping out of Monday mornings with that kind of zest. I don't know why. Also, I think that the business relationship that Mark and I had evolved, and we were probably, because we built a successful company, we were kind of, I guess, overseers rather than, there weren't any new frontiers to
and of course, partnerships in themselves are challenging.
They're very challenging. It's a marriage. And, at the beginning, it was at its dynamically at its best, and I think it changed. We always wanted to go the same place, but like many business partnerships, I wanted to go that way, and Mark wanted to go this way. And when that happens, that threatens the fabric of the business. Yeah. And I realised if it was going to continue, one of us probably had to leave and sell out. Because I was starting to feel a little bit not the same as I used to, I thought, well, maybe can I see a life after this? And I started to see it. I started to envisage doing something else. And it didn't scare me as much as it did when I first thought of it. When I first thought of it, oh no, I can't do that. I've got to stay in. This is too big and too exciting. But I think the world travel also weighed me down. We can all talk about entrepreneurial stories and what it takes to build a business and everything, but there's so many intangibles that are not mentioned by a lot of people, and that's your relationships with your wife, your family.
Yeah, well, I remember you through those years, and you were spending a lot of time on the road. Yeah, months at a time in the States and London. But now, of course, you've stepped up and you're on the international speaking circuit as a sought-after speaker. Yep. And I'm so proud that you've stepped up to that challenge. But it's typical you. That's not all you're doing, is it? Tell me about your corporate entertainment side of the business these days.
Well, it's still kept in the corporate entertainment side.
Okay.
As you can understand, when you sell your business, there is a period of restriction that you can't immediately go and compete against your former. And I knew that, and I was happy with that. So for 2 years, I I started on the corporate speaking circuit, which I love doing. I love telling the story, and it seemed to get a tremendous response from my audiences. So that's a good vindication that it was a good idea to go and do it.
Yeah.
But then it still involves a lot of travel. I'm off to Bangkok tomorrow, for instance, to speak at a big conference there. But I'm still, at my core business, my core heart is I need to entertain people. That's what I do. Yeah. And I still had a few ideas, original ideas of what to do, and I've put together, I actually put it together in the days of Mada, where I've got a squad of 10 guys of the biggest stars of musical theatre, and I've called them the leading men. When you book the act, you get 4 of them. They come to your event and they'll give you the best songs from the best shows. And of course, these aren't the chorus boys. These are the guys who play the leading roles in those shows. And it's very funny, very dynamic. We don't take ourselves seriously at all. But what you get are 4 big egos in check, but with all the drama.
Sometimes you do it yourself as well.
Oh, well, I love the leading men. And
you were Jesus Christ and Superstar.
Yes, I was, yeah. I was original cast member of Les Mis and Chess.
Yeah.
And I played John Lennon also in Looking Through a Glass Onion.
I love that.
New Zealand, yeah. So I do have the musical theatre background of playing Jesus alongside John Stevens and Denny Hines was in the 90s was a great...
So it's from taking all of that background and turning it into the business of business and meeting those challenges. That's what I'm impressed most of all. When times get really tough, you've dug deep, and at the end of the day, you're selling a solution, you're selling that outcome.
Absolutely.
That people want the most.
There's nothing better with the applause. There's nothing better with seeing that event planner who really was under stress or under obligation to deliver a product for their client. Listen, I want my audience to come out of this event having really enjoyed the experience. And there's a whole easy ways to stuff up an event. One of the easy things to do is get the right entertainment. Because as I remember a testimonial I got years ago saying, in 10 years' time, no one will remember the food or the decor, but they will always remember the 3 waiters. Now when I got that testimonial, I realised I'm in a special business where I really, really touch people. The products there, just for 20 minutes to half an hour, people can just be transported, out of their normal lives into something which is just so much fun, and they can relate to, they can appreciate, and that makes a difference. It's even if it's only for half an hour.
Absolutely. And what I can relate to most of all, Darryl, is that you're an ordinary guy with an extraordinary talent, and you've stepped out of your comfort zone. You've taken an idea, you've taken it to market, you've overcome the obstacles, and the message that I want our audience to enjoy is that although times are very, very tough within our industry from a regulatory environment, that's what you have to do. You have to dig deep. You've got to come over those obstacles. You've got to come over that fear of rejection.
I put it down the word as resilience. Resilience is you've either probably innately got it or you haven't, but if you can not be overwhelmed by the obstacles which you're up against, and just keep a calm persona over your employees so they see you not panicking, and you can, things pass, and if you can get through obstacles and face the next one and the next one without being overwhelmed by it, you'll get through it. And a lot of people don't have that, and that's understandable. That's why people kind of happy to go home at the end of the day and not have to think about that. Whereas, an entrepreneur, an owner of a business has to take that home. So if you can handle that, then you've got what it takes. And your business would be no exception. If you can get through the crises, deal with government legislation and hauled at you now and then, or difference in trends, then you, if you've got the right business structure set up and you're passionate about it, you have to be passionate about it to some kind of extent, then you should be all right.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of time working on the business, getting all your processes and
a lot of time with
that, because it's just not going to happen without that. No. Darryl, I'd love to end up with a song, but unfortunately here in the studio we're not equipped for it. But what I'd like you to do is add in one of your clips. Maybe would you be kind enough to share Nessun Dorma with us?
Absolutely, very, very happy.
Fantastic. How good's that, folks? Darryl Lovegrove, thank you so much for your time today.
It's a pleasure. This is your chance to reach inside and find that inner rock or opera singer that is in each and every one of us.
Sensational session. Building a global business from a simple idea was tremendous.
And the whole crowd was standing up and singing along. It was very, very good.
He was fabulous. He was very, very good, very inspiring. Great story.
Darryl's story is one which is unique and does touch our hearts and also our minds.
A fantastic presentation and a fantastic story. And there was some analogies, there were some great analogies for us to apply to our own business.
Vincerò,